Okay, something a little bit different today. This is now the third time I've gone through and tried to record this. So, um, get everything out of the way. This is basically just technical investigation over something that was submitted from one of my viewers. So, with that, we're going to withhold judgment on anything else in regards to how this plays out. But effectively the end user, or the viewer, sorry, still in Monday through Friday mode, 9 to 5. But basically the viewer, and I was able to collaborate or double check. Haven't had my second thing of coffee yet. Um, check with them and verify that there's someone going around on Discord, either a player of a particular game or pretending to be the dev, or it very well could be the dev. I'm withholding any sort of judgment in that regard. But effectively, what happens is it's, hey, I'm playing this game, it's in alpha, not quite released yet, anything else like that, at least at the time this was going on, so it's just like basically last month. Hey, I mean, I could direct you here and you can play it and you can tell me what you think. Um, and there have been at least two people that have come forward, one of which has been making something of a stink. So let me go ahead and bring this up. So again, withholding judgment, effectively, I've been in contact with the person that's been leaving the comments and trying to go through and or make sure that the stories match up over what I've been told from the viewer and then what I'm finding here. And effectively, they are not happy. This person was able to confirm that yes, they sat there, got the same type of message on Discord, and this person was pretending to be the dev and got them to go and download and run it. And of course, the next thing they sat there and claimed is that they lost access to their Steam and Discord accounts. So we'll get that out of the way. Now, I am not. I'm going to sit there and say this, and I'm going to say this extremely clearly. No harassment. Please. I don't need somebody having a stick up their butt thinking that I'm going through and trying to get a ganging up on somebody else here. But yes, I realize I don't have anything here currently. Interesting. It shows up and then it's gone. What's interesting? It just keeps disappearing as I'm trying to add it in. Okay, let's try this again. Wow. Okay, got it. All right, so the game is Light to Live. It's got a Steam page, it has a Twitter account, and it has a itch.io, which all perfectly fine, it seems to all point to where it needs to go. Twitter goes to the actual Twitter. The Steam link goes to the actual game on Steam. It looks like it would be an interesting play. I'm not about to sit there and purchase it given the current situation, but that's okay. As it sits, so the viewer that submitted this had somebody that they didn't or haven't previously talked to reach out and tried to get them to actually go to, instead of the itch, to the GitHub page, which is pretty much an exact one-for-one clone. Except, so the same thing, link to itch, but there's a download that points to the Discord app CDN. So it's not being hosted on Steam. It's not being hosted on Dropbox or Google Cloud or anything else like that. It's in Discord, where most of these communications are occurring. The fun thing is that the zip file itself, no hits. You download it, it's 7.7 megs, extracts out to, I think, 16 to 17 megs. But effectively, let me zoom in, make this a little bit better. There is an installer with a bunch of Python files, PYC and PYD files. From looking through it, I don't see anything having touched those. Basically, it looks like the installation is you go ahead and run the installer like you would kind of expect. I mean, it's only 150K, but then it reaches back out yet again to the Discord app CDN to pull down something else. That being, well, here it shows as node, but it basically shows up as light2live.exe. And effectively, the scores have been getting slightly better over time, but effectively, I can understand as to really how this ended up playing out. I don't think there was any sort of real comms or anything else like that. Yeah, we didn't get much of anything from that. I was going to go through and actually run this on an internal sandbox as opposed to relying on services. That fell through right quick. I think I allowed it to sit there and run for 15 minutes with Procmon64 and Wireshark running. The key thing is to whether or not if you manage to find this and you're going to go through and do an analysis, it needs to have internet access. It can't be iNet simmed or fake netted because of the fact that it's constantly going out and trying to grab stuff from the Steam, or not Steam, Discord CDN. So the file itself is, we'll round up, 105 megs, which means it's big enough that we can't dump it into things like hybrid analysis. We can't dump it into any .run without the paid for accounts. I was going to try Joe's Sandbox, but apparently you can only register for an account during the weekday. This is Saturday, so that's out. Thankfully, there is this lovely service, Triage, that I believe is provided from Recorded Future that you can sign up for. So tria.ge. I haven't really found limitations, but this allowed me to upload the 105 meg executable. So the thing that the installer pulls down. And then basically go through and let it run through. It died out on the 64-bit version of Windows 7, which, okay, big shock. My testing was mostly done in the Windows 10 VM that I was running, that of course is 64-bit. But, so triage does flag spyware and Stealer. So that would explain as to what occurred, as to whether or not if it grabs session cookies or maybe web passwords saved in the web browser. But we do have reads user profile data from web browsers. Let me zoom in slightly on this. So effectively, what this was doing in the local sandbox, not triage, but my own, was basically spawning a bunch of command.coms and PowerShells that would constantly go through and do task list. Eventually reached the point where it looks like it managed to elevate privileges past administrator, as I had access denied with Process Explorer. But, I mean, this breaks down a very, very nice portion for how the stuff goes. So we get the light to live. Actually, I think I was waiting. Oh, yeah, okay. I was trying to run the installer through to see as to whether or not if it would give us anything else. And the installer was not detected. And then yesterday, so Friday the 7th, ran through, dumped it into VirusTotal, and it was updated, which is what we're seeing here. For Palo Alto actually picking the stuff up. But I wanted to see as to whether or not if we would get anything else. No, not so much. Oh well, it was worth a shot. Oh well. Ran it on local, so at least for this one, ran it on local. Allowed it to get the second stage. So the light2live.exe, which is what we're analyzing here. So basically a bunch of encoded PowerShell. Kicking the .NET framework to run a script through there. It builds out. Here's the constant cmd.exes for task list. There's plenty of aspects of me or on the local box. PowerShell get clipboard. And looks like additional reconnaissance with route. I believe I observed netstat being run as well to sit there and record from there. I'm not entirely sure as to what's up with the PowerShell, but then just not having an actual flag. Yep, so it's basically looking for everything, and then a ping to Google's DNS server primary in order to verify connectivity. If you manage to go through and you want to work on this yourself, typical safeguards apply, use a sandbox, and unfortunately it does have to be internet facing. So use VPN or route everything through Tor. Okay. And this is exactly like what I was referencing, the repeated cmd.exes and PowerShells over and 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 over. But effectively, I started with the Proc Explorer list, probably about the length of the big screen, and by the time the stuff was going, it was probably 2 or 3 screens deep of having to sit there and scroll. It's just constantly repeating the same particular aspects. Oh, and for this particular one, Task Manager, because it's interactive, I did open that up to verify that it was indeed still running. So that one can be knocked out as my doing, but everything else is its own. So GitHub, Discord, IP info. I'd say I'm surprised, but that would be a lie. So, it is indeed a Steeler. I did not really observe, like I said, any sort of real persistence. Restarting the box, local VM did not seem to cause any problems, at least that I could find. I haven't quite gone through. I didn't see, I did a red shot. So as the established baseline before detonating the malware and then running the second, not really a whole heck of a lot stood out in that particular aspect. The non-viewer, the person that was effectively in those comments, they are mostly certain that it was the itch page. But I don't think the itch page has really changed. So I think it might have been more a misdirect, and I might sit there and just try to individually talk to them. But as this looks, I can't find any tie between the actual game dev and the fake demo page. As much as I would love to sit there and say, yes, okay, the dev needs to be burnt at the stake. I mean, it's okay, a bunch of people, or at least two people on Twitch, or not Twitch, on Discord. I mean, there's no official. I mean, all they have is Twitter. So if it was something on Twitter, okay, that might lend a little bit more credence to it. Um, but it's also a fairly good example of sticking to reputable sources. So itch, I would have to imagine they would do their own sort of code, or there's got to be some sort of checking that's done of these things being run to see as to what shakes out. Kind of like what you would expect with, Steam, everything else like that. And I am aware before anybody leaves a comment that yes, sometimes the stuff or bad stuff gets passed through Steam. But effectively, this just looks like somebody found a um, indie game. Might have been at some particular point garnering attention, and they decided to jump right in with it. So you set up a couple of accounts, you clone the actual itch page, you change it just slightly to go through and be able to add in your fake demo download page and go from there. You create a Discord account and you use the username of the developer studio, everything else like that. And before anybody asks, I have tried to reach out to the dev just to get their side in regards to anything. And if that stuff comes back and they approve it, I will basically put out an additional. Right now, I was more interested in, okay, you know, somebody reaches out, says, hey, I have a game. They go ahead and, get it. They run a local copy. All of a sudden, they lose access to their accounts. Well, as we're seeing, as this would work, yes, in this particular case, is entirely what this thing is. It's a password stealer. although not so much in the line of keylogger, at least from what I could find. I mean, you would expect that if it's going to be that particular case, there's going to be some sort of persistence mechanism. It's going to create a scheduled task. It's going to, um, create a registry entry for one of the run keys. It's going to put itself in the startup folder for your user directory. Um, something. And at least as far as what I was able to do with local detonation, didn't find any of that. Hmm. Okay, triage, what's up? It's broken. Oh, let's turn off uBlock. I mean, was able to run without any sort of problem. Connection's still up and valid. Okay. So I'll go through. I don't really want to give the links to the fake page. I guess we could do this. If anybody knows somebody at GitHub that, is looking to sit there and wants to make um, get on a bunch of people's good side, or at least those that have fallen for this, reach out. I will share with you the defanged URL for the fake, or to at least get the demo. Again, the fake demo. It's not a demo. It's malware. Although it's technically the first stage of at least two-stage. Um, I will include the triage. I will include the more unsettling aspect of the VT scan results. I mean, McAfee, Fortinet. And mind you, before I went through and refreshed the scans, it was maybe half this. So maybe 3 or 4 engines detecting something. So kind of more of I suppose the key takeaway would be, okay, somebody offers you something for free. It's kind of the old adage of if it's too good to be true, it probably is. If you're not expecting files, double check. So in this case, okay, running them through VT. Okay, you get the installer, you run it through VT, the zip file, and you get maybe one hit. Although if it's at the time that this stuff is like really rocking and rolling, which seems to be like August, I think, of 2022, maybe September, you have no results instead of virus total. So I guess that's kind of one of those key aspects in terms of you probably should go through and set up a sandbox if you can, if you have the resources, or effectively just don't stop downloading stuff. I know it's not reasonable to make that assumption because okay, I mean I like Bitdefender myself, but even Bitdefender or Kaspersky, they're not picking up jack on this. The only thing that would potentially save you is, I guess, technically detonating the sucker on a sandbox beforehand. And at least there would be something more that would shake out from there. So pick your service. But even then, I mean, a lot of the stuff would be after the fact. I mean, I almost wish I had a note that had, like, say, CrowdStrike and just detonate that sucker in there and see what shakes out. But yeah, so just something kind of quick and dirty in regards to basically just putting out additional content. Hopefully the viewer that went through and submitted this, hopefully they're happy, at least in regards to what I've been able to go through. But this is kind of past the resources of my rinky-dink detonation VM. Just because the fact is I mean, it does not just want to seem to go or did not want to seem to stop. I mean, the triage VM, I let it run for 30 minutes, and obviously, you know, go back a couple of minutes to the scrolling list through the process tree as to how this stuff was going. A bunch of CMDs and a bunch of PowerShells, just constantly, over and over and over again for that entire 30 minutes. Hmm. Oh, I'm gonna be really upset if that. Okay, there we go. Whew. Yeah, so like I said, will it actually load, or is she gonna crap out again? Regardless. Okay, so there we go. I'll include links, and then you'll have to just kind of wait for this massive thing to dump out everything. If you want to go through and look, but this was kind of an interesting story to go along with the analysis. Um, and like I said, if I can get in touch with the developer to get their side in regards to any of this particular aspect, um, I might have to lean on somebody who has a Steam account to go through and just kind of poke them there to see as to whether or not if anything shakes out. Um, but we've got at least two people that this was trying to go through, and I'm not entirely sure how long ago some of this stuff was, but we're talking within a couple of months. So I guess effectively, you get approached by somebody in Discord saying, "Hey, you want to try out my new game?" Or let me know, and points you to a github.io link, and it follows the same name as Light to Live, or I get technically any other game. I mean, let's expand this out. I mean, go find the actual developer, go find the publisher, find the official places where the thing is, and go from there, as opposed to, some could be anybody on Discord or Twitter that will go through and say that stuff. I mean, if you can find, the game on Steam and it points to a dev Twitter account, okay, I put a little bit more, belief in that as opposed to, just some random person showing up on Discord. I mean, I couldn't tell you the amount of people that just because I'm in a particular room with them, they'll randomly hit me up, not knowing that I do videos, but wanting tech help. So, I mean, apparently that's just the environment that Discord is. I mean, you just spam and you just try to find somebody who may know something and find answers. But but so I'll get all this put together. We'll get this put out. Content. Um, I am hoping that I will have the Windows forensics for Let's Defend, if that's more the material that you want to see, put out for next weekend. Been running into trouble, and also there's stuff going on. Um, Personal stuff that I might be able to elaborate a little bit more on once stuff comes to fruition. I know that a couple of people that I generally am in communication with have asked, "Hey, what's going on? You take, about a month off, and then, you change it from Wednesdays to Saturdays, and so on and so forth." Wednesdays were getting to be a little bit more difficult because of the fact of big meetings that were occurring later in the evening. So I had to make sure to, try to sit there and decompress after work. And then during the week, I'm out at a reasonable time, so there should be plenty of time to go through all that stuff. But there've been a lot of after hours meetings. We'll put up all work, um, you know, home life, everything else like that's good, but it's just a lot of demands on time, especially within the past month and a half. And hopefully I will have great news to share moving forward, but we'll see. It's how it is what it is, and it will be what it is, and it won't be what it's not. Okay, I'm gonna stop babbling. But so there we go. Um, as always, DMs and everything in Twitter are open. I am on Discord in the Let's Defend channel, everything else along those lines. Discord at least is sent in there. I have noticed that for whatever reason, if we're not connected on Twitter and someone sends the stuff in, it's a request, and I'm not getting notified, so I've tried to sit there and be a little bit more proactive in checking the um, message requests inside my inbox, inside of Twitter. So, at least, knock on wood, as of right now, everything's been all taken care of and we're all caught up. But so I'll get all these links together. I will give a short recap of the story, everything else like that as it sits right here. And again, a reminder, no harassment. You want to investigate the stuff yourself? By all means. But until I can have any sort of actual evidence that links the actual dev to the game, to this stealing malware, it's just complete supposition at this particular point. There is no evidence that I can find that link the two. It basically just looks like something was getting a little bit of attention. They thought it would be simple enough to go through and kind of duplicate, change a little bit, pop out there and see as to who they can hit with this. So just be mindful of strangers reaching out via Discord. And with all that stuff, I will see you all in the next video.